Hey everyone, it's Shelby Hartman, DoubleBlind's co-founder and editor-in-chief, and I'm here to talk to you about Blue Meanie mushrooms. Blue Meanies are one of the strongest psilocybin-containing mushrooms. They have an unassuming stature, and they produce small, medium-sized brown to white mushrooms that are easy for amateur enthusiasts to overlook when foraging. But don't be mistaken. These dark blue mushrooms, when picked, can pack a punch. Mushrooms from the genus Paniolus are super common. They grow globally in tropical and temperate environments. Paniolus cyanescens is a tropical, subtropical grassland species, which is often found in dung, just like another familiar mushroom we know. If you're not aware of blue meanies, as mentioned before, you could easily miss a patch of them while foraging for the more popular Psilocybe cubensis, which would be a big bummer because you're probably looking for psilocybin-containing mushrooms, and as mentioned, these are strong ones. Blue meanies are believed to contain 2 to 3 times the psilocybin found in cubensis. Let's talk about identifying blue meanies, because that's what you probably want to know, right? How do I find these things? So in the field, blue meanies tend to be light gray or off-white at maturity, and when they're young, the caps are light brown and then fade to off-white or light gray. Occasionally, they have yellowish or brownish tones. The caps are approximately 0.5 to 2 centimeters in diameter. At first, they're hemispheric and they expand to bell-shaped or convex. The cap margin is incurved when young. The caps are slightly hygrophanous, which means that they lose their color as they dry out, and they often develop cracks in dry weather. The stem, or stipe, tends to be 7 to 12 centimeters long and 2 to 3 millimeters thick, and the width is equal along the length and slightly enlarged at the base. The stem is colored like the cap and covered in a fine white powder. So these mushrooms have a flower-like smell and taste, and like with other psilocybin-containing fungi, when they're damaged, the mushrooms bruise greenish or blue, and that can often be seen on the cap or the stem with blue meanies. So where do blue meanies grow? As mentioned, Paniolus cyanescens is a tropical and subtropical species. So in tropical regions, the mushrooms grow year-round. In the subtropics, they grow from late spring to autumn, depending on the rain and humidity. And they're known to occur in temperate zones during wet and humid parts of the summer. Blue meanies are mostly found growing on cattle or horse dung in pastures and fields. And they grow singly, and they also grow in groups. They appear in spring or during rainy seasons. Their range in the United States is from Florida along the Gulf Coast, where it fruits virtually year-round on, quote, cow pies. Blue meanies were actually thought to have been introduced to other countries by the movement of livestock. So it's assumed that Paniolus cyanescens was introduced to the islands of Hawaii during the early 1800s when cattle were imported there from the Philippines. And now they occur throughout the tropical and subtropical regions of the northern and southern hemispheres. In addition, blue meanies are commonly found in Mexico, South America, Colombia, Bolivia, Brazil, and Peru, Eastern Australia, India, Bali, Southeast Asia, South Africa, France, and Italy. So blue meanies grow in much of the world. Paniolus cyanescens comes from the genus Paniolus, and mushrooms belonging to this widespread genus are generally small and have black spores, and often grow on dung. But not all Paniolus contain psilocybin, and we'll get to this in a little bit. The Paniolus genus contains 13 species that produce psilocybin, including Paniolus cyanescens, blue meanies, what we're talking about, and Paniolus syncytulus. Paniolus mushrooms are called motile gills due to the irregular spots or patches of color on their gills. But there's something else worth noting about this particular species. Paniolus cyanescens is a mushroom with many names. So many names, in fact, that knowing what to call this particular species can be very confusing. So to start with the basics, the name Paniolus in Greek means all variegated, and it's describing the mushroom's spotted texture. The species name cyanescens is derived from cyaneus, meaning blue, for the color the flesh becomes when bruising. The rumor has it that the common name, Blue Meanies, actually came from the Beatles' psychedelic film Yellow Submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine. Okay, sorry, I couldn't help myself. But according to some other mycologists, the common name was coined in Australia. And apart from gold tops, Blue Meanies is one of the more commonly used descriptions of psilocybin-containing mushrooms. To make this all more confusing, a strain of Psilocybe cubensis, a different species of psychedelic mushrooms, is also called Blue Meanies. And the confusion does not stop there. So taxonomy enthusiasts, the people who get very geeky about categorizing all these various strains and varieties and cultivars and species, may recognize this mushroom's previous name, now a synonym, Copelandia cyanescens. And if things weren't already convoluted enough, they are already convoluted enough. Panaeolus cyanescens is also often confused with another psychedelic mushroom, Psilocybe cyanescens. Both mushrooms are abbreviated the same way, P. cyanescens, which is very common. You abbreviate the first letter of the genus, which precedes the name of the species, P. Psilocybe panaeolus. So it's worth noting, though, that even though these two species of mushrooms are abbreviated the same way, they are very different. The first one is a dung lover, and the other one is a wood lover. They also have comparable levels of psilocybin, which is the compound people typically attribute to what makes you trip. But finally, this mushroom is called pancyan, after its new Latin name. So all of this began early on for this mushroom, all the confusion. Panaeolus cyanescens, or Blue Meanies, were first described in Sri Lanka as Agaricus cyanescens in 1871. A few years later, it was described by another mycology expert from the Philippines who named it Copelandia papillonacea. It was then named Copelandia cyanescens by another mycologist in 1951. And the species was named Panaeolus cyanescens, what we're referring to it as, in 1887, which is now its official formal name. The genus Copelandia was deprecated, meaning that it's no longer valid. Panaeolus cyanescens is thought to have originated in Asia, and the mushroom belongs to the family Coprinaceae, the same family as the common mushroom Coprinus comatus, which you might know by the common name lawyer's wig. Now let's talk about the potency of Blue Meanies. As mentioned, they're known to be pretty strong. The inventor of LSD, chemist Albert Hofmann, analyzed Blue Meanies, then known as Copelandia cyanescens, in the early 1960s after reports of, quote, intoxications caused by dung-loving fungi from southern France. And Hofmann found psilocin in higher concentrations after analyzing the fruiting bodies, yet there were only slight quantities of psilocybin. Although the origins of these samples were mysterious to Albert Hofmann, their true origins eventually came to light. They were growing from the dung of horses bought from Indonesia to take part in a horse race. As mentioned above, this species is quite potent. The effects of Blue Meanie mushrooms may come on quickly due to their higher levels of psilocin than psilocybin. Blue Meanies are often reported to be 2 to 3 times the strength of Psilocybe cubensis. Yet, there's very little published data to support these claims, and it's important to remind everybody that we really don't have a lot of rigorous scientific data, generally speaking, looking at the potency of different varieties of psychedelic mushrooms. So Arrowwood reports that these mushrooms have a combined psilocybin and psilocin content of between 0.5 to 2.95% dry weight. In 1992, there was a mycology expert who said that their potency was variable from 0.17 to 0.95% psilocin and 0.16 to 0.19% psilocybin. Psilocybe cubensis, by comparison, has been reported to have concentrations of psilocin and psilocybin between 0.14 to 0.42% and 0.37 to 1.3% dry weight, respectively. Blue Meanie lookalikes. We always got to talk about this because people are, really interested in foraging, and it's important that you know what you're looking out for and what the risks are here. When foraging for any species of mushrooms, it's essential to know lookalike species, especially because sometimes they can be fatal. I'm not exaggerating. So a lookalike species is a mushroom species that may be confused with your, quote, target species. There are a lot of species that are lookalike species with Blue Meanies, and we won't get into all of them now because there's just too many, but we will say that a simple way to tell this species apart from others, while not definitive, is the bluing reaction of the psilocybin. And Paniolus cyanescens also have dark purple to black spores. So those are things that you might want to look out for. So something else to look out for when you're foraging for Blue Meanies is where the mushrooms that you found are growing. As mentioned before, Blue Meanies grow on dung, typically on horse manure or cow patties. And so if you're finding a mushroom that looks like a Blue Meanie, but it's growing on wood chips, for example, it's not a Blue Meanie. Additionally, something to look out for is, are you even in a part of the world where Blue Meanies are said to grow? Or are you in a part of the world at a time of year when Blue Meanies are said to grow? These are all just kind of basic foraging 101 that, if you're in a region where Blue Meanies aren't growing and you see something that looks like a Blue Meanie, it's probably not a Blue Meanie. Generally speaking, we'll say that when foraging, it's great to have a field guide for your area and to have a couple forums handy on your phone. So Shroomery has the Mushrooms Hunting and Identification subforum, which is amazing. There's also an app called iNaturalist, which is handy and can help you provide identification for photos. You can take a photo of the mushroom and upload it. There's Facebook forums as well. Last but not least, we have to give a little reminder about foraging etiquette, which is please do not forage on someone's land without their permission. If you're interested in more information on Blue Meanies or other strains of psychedelic mushrooms, you want to know how to grow mushrooms, you want to know how to take mushrooms, we have tons of information available for free on our website. We also have courses and webinars that you can sign up for, and you can be supported in real time by our team of amazing mycologists. So to check any of that out, we're at doubleblindmag.com.